Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all those joining us live this evening on our various social media platforms, we welcome you to the Illegal Curve post-game podcast. Alongside Dave Manouk, I am Drew Mindell. Ezra Ginsburg going to be joining us momentarily as well. First and foremost, Dave, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, because I can't hear you right now, so we're just going to work through whatever issues we're having. It might be on my end. I'm not sure if it's on my end or Dave's end, but we will figure it out for you. We welcome you, everybody. What a game we just witnessed between the Jets and the Maple Leafs. The Leafs winning by a 4-3 margin in overtime. Dave Manouk, it was anything but boring, that's for sure.
No. And can you hear me now? Still can't hear me.
I can't hear you, Dave.
I don't know what to tell you, bro.
Gonna have to work on that a little bit more. Dave is going to get that mic working up in a second here. Apologies. We are obviously, as you can tell, just getting started with this pretty quick, but hopefully, hang on. Let me see if that works now. Dave, let me hear if I can. There you go. I can hear you now. It was on my end. Sorry about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I look at me blaming you and everyone else.
Like, what did I?
Yeah, everyone joining us. Good evening, everybody joining us in the chat. And so nice to see so many of you on this, what is this, a Thursday evening, if I'm not mistaken. Boy, that was fun, Dave. That was one fun hockey game at the very least.
Well, Connor Hellebuyck earned every single dollar he gets paid, let me tell you, because he was sensational in this game. I mean, he was phenomenal. I don't know how, I think you sent the tweet, there's not enough superlatives or adjectives to describe what it is that he's bringing to this team every night. That was unbelievable.
And it's exactly right. I mean, it was just, you saw a goaltender tonight at the absolute peak of his talents. And that's what, and it shouldn't be a surprise really, given what we've seen from Hellebuyck over the last number of years. But, it never fails to amaze, especially against a Toronto team that is just absolutely loaded with talent.
Yeah, and I think the high danger chances are probably about 1,000,000 to 0 in favor of Toronto after that performance. But I mean, Connor Hellebuyck did what he's come to be known for. Others as he's joining us now, but he was sensational. He looked like a Vezina goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets tonight.
What happened tonight, boys? Holy smokes, was that a hockey game?
It was fun. It was a fun hockey game at the very least. That's almost the easiest way you can use to describe what we saw tonight was just how entertaining it was. I don't think anybody, so there's certainly some people who might be disappointed in the result, but I mean, if we're being honest with our analysis, and we always are, the Jets didn't even deserve that 1 point. It was Connor Hellebuyck who deserved that 1 point. Or he deserved probably more than that, but he's the only reason the Jets are even competitive in a game like this.
I'm still trying to understand how Connor Hellebuyck made some of those saves. I mean, William Nylander looked like he wasn't even going to, be able to finish that game because Hellebuyck had robbed him so many times. And then, on that goal, obviously, John Tavares deserves so much credit. It was a 1-on-3, just unbelievable. Starts the play from his own blue line. But yes, Hellebuyck, continued his strong play from a couple of nights ago. And you're right, Drew. He was the first, second, and third star of the game, even though Nikolai Ehlers and his 2 goals and 3 points probably deserves a star. But just unbelievable. And, we knew that the Leafs were going to be desperate, having lost 3 games in a row. But, I mean, if these two teams meet in the playoffs, boys, man, are we going to be in for a fantastic series, because this was about as good of a regular season game as you're ever going to get.
It was a great game, but I mean, if you're the Winnipeg Jets, I do have to think that you are concerned about the flow of that game and the pace of that game, because I mean, for the second straight night, I would say that the Winnipeg Jets were badly outplayed by the Toronto Maple Leafs, and as a result, you have to wonder, how can the Jets match up against the Leafs if you're considering it, to your point, Ezzy, on in a playoff basis? I mean, you can't solely rely on Connor Hellebuyck to be at that level night in and night out.
Yeah, let's not forget this is the best team in the league right now. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I caught the little bit of the show. I missed a couple minutes there, guys. I was firing up my computer, so sorry about that. But the high danger chances definitely did not favor the Jets. There's no doubt, and they didn't favor the Jets on Tuesday night either. But this Leafs team is really good, and we can have that debate. Whose top six is better. And I could listen to an argument that the Jets' top six is better. And with the way, Dubois, Connor, and Ehlers were playing tonight, the argument is probably in the Jets' favor right now. But there's no doubt, Drew, that, the Jets were giving up way too much in the defensive zone. And, I think, when you look at, Logan Stanley coming in, obviously, on the Ilya Mikheyev goal, guys, he was out of position. He wasn't in the play. Obviously, we're not, trying to single Logan Stanley out here. But, he hasn't played a game in a month. And, I agree with you, Drew, in terms of matchups. I mean, we talked to Michael Trakos about it on the Saturday show. And, Zach Hyman moves up and he plays with Matthews and Marner. But Ilya Mikheyev, Pierre Engvall is a guy that, a late draft pick that I don't think a lot of people know about. But he had the breakaway, of course, when the Leafs were shorthanded. And this is a very deep Leafs team. I mean, you look at Joe Thornton had a chance, late in that third period. I mean, you look at top to bottom, and I've realized, Travis Dermott got exposed a little bit there on the giveaway on Ehlers. What was that, the first goal or the second goal? I forget, guys, but, Travis Dermott playing with Zach Bogosian there on the third pair. I mean, this is a really good team. And, when you look at what the Leafs might have to do before the trade deadline, it's just going to be minor tinkering. The Leafs aren't going to have to go out and make a big splash. And it's just, seen in the record. They've only lost 5 games all year long.
That's absolutely right. Let's hear from the Winnipeg Jets forward Nikolai Ehlers. If I can do this properly, that'll be the big question, but I think I can. Let's hear from Nikolai Ehlers as part of the Illegal Curve postgame show.
You know what? I think our line was creative. Got and school defense. We're I don't know. We got a point away against Toronto.
A little laggy.
Okay, that might not necessarily be working, so we're going to a little laggy. Is that what the problem was?
Yeah, I think it's laggy.
So that's as we said, we're trying to we're testing out some new technology here. So I hope everyone doesn't mind doesn't mind that we're testing some things, and they might not necessarily be perfectly.
I think Ehlers had a lot of good things to say there, boys. I didn't hear any of them, but yeah, lots of good things to say.
Well, I mean, there's lots of comments. We're seeing all your comments coming in via YouTube and coming in via Twitter, and those of us who are joining us via Twitch. A lot of people who I think are questioning, the start of using the Scheifele, Wheeler, and Stasny line, given the performance that we saw from Nikolai Ehlers in tonight's game. And I think that's a valid comment. So often coaches want to use time in overtime to reward those who've been playing well. And to me, what's the downside starting with the Ehlers, Connor, and Dubois line?
I mean, I think you're 100% right. I think you should have probably started with them, given how they've played throughout the course of the game. And given how hot Ehlers was, Drew, I mean, I think he probably earned his opportunity to be the guy who started overtime. I mean, you have a guy who's 2 goals, 1 assist in the game. He was flying for offensively, defensively. So to me, Nikolai Ehlers is the guy who probably should have started that. And then, and then it was just an unusual overtime sequence, right? I mean, there was they don't get a call against them, and then instead of they just seemed almost casual. It was like a 3-on-2. They're like, we got time,
yeah.
And then we see what ends up happening, right?
Right, and I agree. You're not going to. Sorry, go ahead, Drew.
I was going to say no. You can finish it, Isaiah. You're fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not going to find an argument for me, and I agree with Dave. I mean, the way that line played, and we talked about it heading into the last game against Montreal 2 games ago. Pierre-Luc Dubois, Nikolai Ehlers, Kyle Connor, the way that they were playing, because obviously, this is a relatively new line. And, you saw how good this line can be at 5-on-5. That's what I like so much about this game, guys. Like, there were a few power plays, but for the most part, like, this was back and forth hockey at even strength. So yes, did Nick Ehlers deserve to be out there? Yes, he deserves to be out there on the first power play. We've talked about that for at least a couple of years on our show, right? So, but having said that, you're not going to go wrong when you're putting out, whether it's Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, even if you decide to go with one defenseman and two forwards and put Morrissey or Pionk out there. I mean, the main takeaway from this game, guys, is how well Connor Hellebuyck played. Maybe one of the best. Like, you go back to last year, that game against San Jose, right? Like, we talked about that a lot last year. I mean, this was right up there. Not the same amount of saves, boys, but some of the saves he was making, like, these were A++ saves. Like, Nylander alone, he robbed him 3 times. Like, the Leafs could have easily had 5 or 6 goals in this game, maybe even more. Just how well they were playing. Like, they were pushing the pace the whole game, and the Jets were on their heels for big chunks of this game. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, in that overtime, like Dave said, it was a little bit all over the place, and I don't know how. I forget who slashed Morgan Riley there, slashed his stick.
Stastny.
Yeah, I don't know how Stastny doesn't get a penalty there, but obviously, the Jets will take it. And what a goal from Austin Matthews. But look, the Jets gave up way too many high danger chances, not only tonight, but on Tuesday night. But that hockey game was just incredible. That's my main takeaway.
That to me is my main takeaway, though, Ezzy, is just how one-sided these games have been without, look, Connor Hellebuyck, you can say great goaltending is always the equalizer, and it is. And the Jets don't need to apologize for having a better goaltender than the Leafs in Connor Hellebuyck. But to expect, I mean, let's look ahead. Let's assume that the Jets are going to be a playoff team. And given what we've seen, I would be surprised if they aren't. And if you're going to have to go through the Toronto Maple Leafs at some point in time in the playoffs, to me, it's one-sided right now. This Jets team, as currently constructed and or as currently deployed, without exceptional goaltending, even with average goaltending, what's the score of tonight's game?
Yeah, but having said that,
5-2,
but having said that,
5-3?
they've taken 3 of 4 points, right? And
which
that
they
has
get
been
credit for.
Right. And you mentioned without exceptional goaltending, but they get exceptional goaltending almost every night, right? Like the 7-1 games against Montreal are not a common occurrence, right? So 90% of the time, Connor Hellebuyck is the better goalie of the 2 goalies on the ice that are starting, right? So I agree with you, Drew. I mean, it's very puzzling right now because you look at the Jets, through what are we at, 25 games here. We're almost halfway through the season, which is just incredible. And yeah, many times they're getting outshot, outchanced, high danger, chanced out. The possession is not in their favor. Like there's anybody who watched that game knows that the Toronto Maple Leafs deserve to win that game, but the Jets, stayed in it. Stastny ties it up late there. And Hellebuyck was by far the better goaltender. So yes, I agree with you. There are some things that the Jets have to fix. And, we're a month away from the trade deadline, and we're going to continue to talk about, the Jets' need for probably a top 4 defenseman. But, just getting back to that game, guys, I don't want to, not live in reality, even though sometimes I like to. But, I mean, that game was just so exciting. Like, I love that type of hockey. And the coaches probably don't love that type of hockey. I bet Paul Maurice was sweating pretty profusely there on the bench, midway through the third period. But, especially for the fans in attendance, man, they got their money's worth.
The fans in attendance, everyone watching from the comfort of their living room is
making sure that you guys were paying attention there.
Usually I tune you out. Admittedly, when you start talking, I usually stop paying attention. But in that instance, I caught what you were having to say there. It's just, to me, it's just the one-sidedness of the game is what's going to stick with me. And I know that, potentially people are going to say I'm a negative Nelly. And look, the Jets have got 3 out of 4 points from the Leafs in these 2 games. And at the end of the 3-game series, if you had said the Jets are at worst going to be 1-1-1 in those 3 games with the Leafs, most people would probably take that. So I get all of that and I understand all of that. But to me, it's just, the image of Connor Hellebuyck having to be otherworldly is what's going to stick with me when I think back on this game, Dave.
Yeah, and I think over the final high danger chances 4 and against, I think 17-4 in favor of the Leafs at 5-on-5. So I mean, you've got a team that is phenomenally talented, and that's just the reality. And the Leafs have the benefit of the final change, so you get to win a little bit of that matchup from a coaching perspective. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think, as he said it, and he's not wrong. I mean, here's one of the strengths of your team is that you have one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, and that's just part of your strength. I mean, you have a great forward core, but you also have one of the best goaltenders in the NHL, and so. It's true, Drew. I mean, I know what you're saying. Can you win? Is this sustainable? But, I mean, the truth is the Jets have ridden Connor Hellebuck significantly, and as a result, they've been able to, have success, right? You're 16-8-2 now on the season. You're pretty well established as a, playoff team. Again, to your point, there's still over half the season to go, but these guys have done a sufficient amount of banking that they've put themselves into a good position. But ultimately, I know ultimately your question isn't, are they sufficient to be a playoff team? It's, are they sufficient to be a team that can exit the North and make some noise? And will they be able to do that simply with Connor Hellebuck having to do this on a nightly basis? I guess what I'm saying is that Connor Hellebuck seems to be doing this on a nightly basis. You don't have very often those Montreal-style games from Connor Hellebuck. You don't want to have to rely on it. And don't get me wrong, the Jets have areas in which they can improve. There's no question about it. But, I mean, look at what was their face-offs tonight? How many times did they start without the puck? I think Toronto had a 65,
Toronto
35.
dominated in the circle.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Toronto dominated in all aspects of the game. And dominated akin to how they dominated the Oilers, last week, winning those 3 games by, what was the margin? 16-3 they won those 3 games by. I mean, if it wasn't for Connor Hellebuck, the score isn't vastly different than what we saw between the Oilers and the Leafs. Granted, the Jets, Ehlers obviously got the 2 goals and Stastny got a goal. So maybe the Jets would have got more goals than the Oilers did in that 3-game series. But the talent disparity is what, if Kevin Cheveldayoff is sitting back and he's thinking to himself, our goal is to obviously, win the North Division and advance in the playoffs, he has to feel as though the team needs upgrades in which to compete against the Leafs in a 7-game series.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And I think, one thing to point out, I mean, Josh Morrissey and Tucker Pullman did not have a strong game. And, we've been talking about this for at least a couple of weeks on our show, Saturday show. I wonder if it's time to finally put Dylan DeMello up with Josh Morrissey. And I wonder if Paul Maurice does that on Saturday. And you guys know, I mean, I sound like a broken record here. I got to qualify this. I'm a big Tucker Pullman guy. I just don't know if he's suited for that, shut down top pairing role. I like him better in that third pairing role. And, I would have no problem with, Logan Stanley and Tucker Pullman on a third pair. And again, Logan Stanley, even though, on that third goal, he's out of position, I thought he actually had overall a pretty solid game, right? Like, he didn't put up like huge minutes and, he doesn't find himself on the score sheet, but, considering that that's his first game in a month, I thought he was very good. So, that's one thing I would point out. And, going back to what Drew said, I mean,
but
this
hang on,
Leafs
let me stop you right there. Logan Stanley, I mean, was fine. He was perfectly reasonable. He was better than Nathan Beaulieu. But if it's Logan Stanley or if it's Nathan Beaulieu or if it's Sami Niku, it's not going to matter, given the talent that we saw on the ice from the Leafs. Changing around who's playing on your third pairing of your left side when the defense is as it's currently constructed, it's just not going to matter, I think, ultimately.
Well, that's not the point I was making, though. My point was that I'd like to see Dylan DeMello move from the third pair to the top pair.
Agreed. And I don't know why Paul Maurice isn't doing that, aside from maybe he's terrified that a Pullman and Stanley third pairing just doesn't have a chance. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that it's any better or any worse than a DeMello Stanley third pairing that we've been seeing, or DeMello and Beaulieu before that. I mean, you need something to get Josh Morrissey better. He was comfortable with Dylan DeMello last year. I don't, for the life of me, understand why you wouldn't at least revisit that, especially given what you've seen from this team over the last little while.
And it's not just the first pair, the second pair, the third pair, guys. This is a team effort here, right? Like, the Jets were outplayed at even strength all over the ice. And you have to give the Leafs credit, though. This is the best team, whether or not you think they're going to win the Stanley Cup. I'm not saying that the Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup. I'm just saying that right now, the Leafs, based on their record, are the best team in the league. So you have to remind yourself, if they're the best team in the league and you were able to take 3 of 4 points, even if that meant that, Connor Hellebuyck made 450 saves over the course of 2 games, that means that you're not that far off from the Leafs. So I would take the devil's advocate approach and say, yes, the Jets were badly outplayed at even strength. They gave up a lot of shots. They needed Connor Hellebuyck to be otherworldly to get those 3 points out of a possible 4 points. But also, you got to take, the good with the bad, right? And there were a lot of good things that the Jets did here. They could have easily, not got a point in this game. So, I do think we should give some hope for Jets fans that, aren't too depressed after that, finish in that third period and overtime.
Well, and the only thing I would add also is that you're talking about a Leafs team that had lost 3 games in a row and were desperate for a win. And they're staring down a 2-1 deficit to the Jets, through 40. So there's a situation where they're, knowing how much they need those points. They need to get back into it. They need to, get some good feelings in their room, because if they were to lose in regulation and lose a 4th game, first of all, the Jets are only 3 points back with 1 game in hand, I believe, or 2 games. No, 1 game in hand.
The Jets have 2 games in hand on the Leafs, if I'm not mistaken, right now.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think it was 2 games entering tonight as well.
Was it?
Okay.
But the point is that you've got the Jets breathing down your throat if the Jets end up taking that in the third period and holding on to win. And so two games in hand on the Leafs, and they're currently 6 points back. 6 points back. Okay, so they were if you would have won in regulation, you would have been down by 3 with 2 games in hand. And that's a situation where for the Leafs is not exactly when you had that much breathing room. Remember when we were talking to Michael Tracos, it looked like and we had said this to him when we had him on the show on Saturday, if the Leafs sweep the Jets or if they win 2 or 3, they're pretty much in the position to almost start resting guys because of the cushion they've given themselves, in first place. Instead, the Jets win game 1, have a potential to win game 2, and like I said, they were in the driver's seat for a lot. Like, even though they weren't from a score perspective, the Jets were in the driver's seat. Connor Hellebuyck perspective, the Jets were in the driver's seat. So, I mean, again, if you take 2 games from the Leafs of 3 with the last one up, I'm just saying it's coulda, woulda, shoulda, but it's just an interesting way of looking at the game. I think because I think again, this is a Jets team that has some wrinkles, has some flaws. There's no question. But I don't know that there's not a team in the NHL that isn't flawed. You talked about the Edmonton Oilers, Drew, earlier, how they got destroyed by.
Oh, there you go.
But I'm just saying that we cannot forget the fact that one of the Jets' biggest strengths is its goaltending. Connor Hellebuyck has been phenomenal. Laurent Brossoit has had a bounce back year. So you've got excellent goaltending, you've got very good forwards, and you've got a defensive core that. And we talked about it on the show on Saturday. If the Jets make a move before the trade deadline in a month and a day, bringing in like an Ekholm, for example, how much more solidified is that defensive core with the move? I agree with Ezzy. I mean, I'm in the camp that thinks that you need to move Dylan DeMello up. I don't know why. Like, I like Tucker Poolman. I think Tucker Poolman is your third pairing defenseman. I think that's exactly the good role for him. I think you put him into that first role. I'm not so certain that's his strength, that doesn't play to his strength. I think Dylan DeMello can handle that. I think Dylan DeMello, Josh Morrissey looked good with what we saw them last year. So to me, go back to them. I don't know what and the reality is we've seen Tucker Poolman play with Sami Niku in the AHL before. Tucker Poolman and Logan Stanley, if they have to play together, could play fine together. But you could really you could ride Dylan DeMello, Josh Morrissey, Derek Forbort, Neil Pionk.
I would agree with you. It's also worth noting that there were 2 Winnipeg Jets scouts, including assistant general manager Larry Simmons, at tonight's Columbus, Florida game. Most people assuming they weren't there necessarily to watch Patrick Laine and Jack Roslovic, but more likely there to watch David Savard, who is an pending unrestricted free agent, a blue liner for the Columbus Blue Jackets, one of the litany of blue liners that has been rumored to be available potentially with the upcoming trade deadline. So you wonder if Simmons and the other scout were there to probably keep a pretty close eye and see if it's, now is the time, or sooner rather than later is the time to strike in acquiring a guy like David Savard.
Yeah, it's possible. And, that's exactly what the Jets are missing, right? Like, we've talked about this. And I think going back to tonight's game, one of the things that stands out to me, in terms of some of the chances that the Leafs were getting, obviously we're coming off of turnovers, but I think you've seen, if the Jets get away from their structure and try to trade chances with the Leafs, that's just a recipe for disaster. And that's the type of game that the Leafs want to play. And at times it looked like Austin Matthews' overtime goal was obviously filthy. But, at times Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Zach Hyman, Zach Hyman is such a good hockey player. And when you can move a player like that, he's basically interchangeable from the first line to the third line, right? And when you've got players like Ilya Mikheyev and Pierre Engvall, these guys are not household names. But these are guys that, can get the job done. They can play any type of game. I'm talking about the third line. They can play that kind of checking role, but they've got some offensive talent, especially when, even an Alex Kerfoot, is a guy that, what's his top year in the NHL? I think he's put in 15 goals before. So, I mean, that's one thing that I would look out for, going into Saturday night's game. You might see some minor tweaks from Paul Maurice. You might see Dylan DeMello go up on the top pair. Connor Hellebuyck is obviously going to get the start, but I think strategy-wise, you can't get into the type of game where you're giving up that many high-danger chances. You have to slow the game down a little bit, and you just didn't see enough of that from the Jets.
Well, to your point, Ezzy, I mean, if the Jets don't make any roster changes to the forwards, and I'm talking about Jansen Harkins, I mean, he might as well assume he's not going to play another game this year without there being an injury. The Jets' fourth line was just, they might as well not have been on the roster tonight, and that's fine. That's not a game that they can play in. It's not a game that they can skate with the Leafs in. So I don't know why you don't try and inject your lineup with a guy like Jansen Harkins, at least on Saturday. Maybe I understand not doing it tonight because you won in regulation on Tuesday night. But if Jansen Harkins isn't in the lineup on Saturday night, it's just going to leave me even more befuddled that he's playing currently behind Nate Thompson and to a lesser extent Trevor Lewis, because at least Lewis is on has been a regular on the penalty kill.
Yeah, and Matty Perreault drew a penalty there, but they didn't play much. I agree. I mean, it wasn't the strongest performance from the fourth line, and yeah, you have to ask yourself, if Harkins isn't going in next game, when will he go in? It's been a couple of weeks, boys, 2.5 weeks since he last played. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Jansen Harkins goes in on the fourth line. But this is a game where it's the old rubber match, right? And obviously the Leafs weren't happy that they gave up that bonus point to the Jets with that late goal from Paul Stastny. But this is another important game because, as Dave mentioned, you can easily go from 3 points behind the Leafs to 7 points behind the Leafs. Luckily, they got that point and they find themselves 6 points back with 2 games in hand. But yeah, I don't think you want to see this exact same type of game, but I really don't know how much different this game can be, guys, because of how good Toronto is offensively. This is, one of the best offensive teams, whether it's, the best team or the third top offense in the NHL. It's a top 3 offense for sure. I think you guys would agree with that. And you really have to play your best defensive game if you're going to limit their chances. And that was not the Jets' best defensive game.
Oh, that's putting it mildly. You're certainly right about that. It was not the Jets' best defensive game. I don't know even the Jets is currently constructed with the defense that they have and with the forward group that they have. If they play their best defensive game, if that's even good enough to slow down this Maple Leafs team, that was. I mean, look, the Leafs. It chagrins me to say this. Look, I can't stand it. I find it nauseating as much as everyone else does that isn't a Leafs fan. And if they win the Stanley Cup or if they get all the way to the finals, everyone should just go hide in the cave for a long while rather than having to listen to it ad nauseum. But the Leafs are a damn talented hockey team. Frankly, I think they're a more talented hockey team than the Winnipeg Jets. Connor Hellebuyck, of course, being the great equalizer.
Yeah, and I mean, I think ultimately, Drew, again, I think what it comes down to is you had a Jets team, that Paul Maurice sometimes, and I think I was caught a bit of when you guys were just talking. I flipped over to his press conference, and I was just watching. He was asked, I believe, why he went with the Scheifele line over the Pierre-Luc Dubois line to start overtime, and I think his response had to. And I mean, I was reading the closed captioning, but I think it was essentially that because of the face-offs and Pierre-Luc, maybe I hadn't. I'll have to look at the numbers to verify that as to whether he felt that the Scheifele Stastny, depending on whoever ended up taking the draw, was going to be the stronger option than Pierre-Luc Dubois. But, at the end of the day, you look at the ice time, those guys were over 20 minutes for that Jets top line. To Ezzy's point about the fourth line not really being a factor, you had those guys play about 8 minutes. And then you had your, the Nikolai Ehlers, Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois in the 17, 18-minute range. So to me, again, one of the things, and we've talked about it a lot, is that you just can't burn out these guys. Like, you need to be able to balance. And, to me, if you have a fourth line that you're not using, it's such a waste, especially these guys are going to be playing every second day. It's not like you have like a big break like coming up that you can say, okay, well, we can give these guys some rest because we've got X coming up. That's not coming up. You've got a sprint right pretty much till sometime in April. And for me,
it's basically 4 and 6 nights almost every week.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and don't get me wrong, every other team has to deal with this. Like, it's not like the Jets are unique and like, oh, poor to the Jets. Everybody has to deal with it. But it's how you use your resources. I mean, you have a taxi squad. We talked about it on Saturday, right? What did we say? We said it makes no sense not to use your taxi squad. The whole point is that, especially for older guys like the Nate Thompsons, the Trevor Lewises, you've got guys who are healthy and ready to jump in, like Jansen Harkins, right? There's a guy who we were talking about. We wouldn't even think about him being a guy who wasn't in the lineup after what he was able to do. And now he's, hard pressed to get in there. And in theory, it was because of penalty kill, but how much penalty killing time has Nate Thompson had? So I guess
they have, aside from the Andrew Kopp penalty that was a 4-on-4 for a lot of it.
I'm talking about in general. I'm not just talking about this game. I'm just saying in general. So
and you have other players that can play that role, right? Like we know Andrew Kopp, Adam Lowry, Jansen Harkins, Mason Appleton. I mean, the Jets don't have a shortage of players forwards that can play on the penalty kill, Dave. So I think you're right. I mean, there is a good chance you're going to see Jansen Harkins either on Saturday or very soon.
Well, if they don't, I won't understand it. I mean, that's just, and we said that, I think, on Saturday's show, that we didn't understand why he wasn't in the lineup. Just
by the way, as an aside, I agree with that. I actually thought Savard should have been part of the trade. Sorry, I'm reading one of the comments from our audience right now, and I agree with you. Actually, I thought that Roslovic was given away for way too cheap, thrown in as an extra, and I thought that maybe they could have not necessarily just done 2 for 2, but with an additional piece, gotten Savard for as a rental for this year.
Well, you and AJ can get in the DeLorean and go back in time and maybe pick up David Savard.
That'll be, Dave has a DeLorean, I'm sure, just handy in and around the house, I'm sure, undoubtedly. It's just, look, you've taken 3 out of a possible 4 points. You get the game into overtime. After you come back, you give up the lead, throughout the course of the game, you come back, you tie the game, and that's good. That's all very good things for the Winnipeg Jets to get 3 out of 4 points. To me, though, you have to, once you sort of go a layer deeper, there's a lot more that's troubling than there is positive, with the exception of Nikolai Ehlers' performance and Connor Hellebuyck's performance. Other than that, there's more issues than there are solutions, I think, based on tonight's contest. Now, that just might be a function of playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that probably is the case. But that's the team you got to go through this year. There is no avoiding the Toronto Maple Leafs once playoff time comes. And as currently constructed, with things the way they currently are, it's, to me, probably a reality check or a dose of reality for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I think, you're happy that you got the 3 points for sure. I mean, you're happy with the way that you were able to squeeze an extra point out of tonight's game. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you were lucky to most likely get the win the other night, but I mean, look at Toronto is a great team. I don't know how else to say it. Like the Jets right now, it's one of those games where if you're talking about what is sustainable and what isn't sustainable, I think what we saw is it was sustainable through 2 periods, and it wasn't sustainable, as the game progressed into the 3rd period and overtime, right? Even though the Jets had their chances in overtime as well. But look, the Jets are not a top defensive team. They give up a lot of chances, not just against the Leafs. I mean, we saw that, a week ago in that 7-1 loss less than a week ago at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens. So, this is something that the coaching staff is going to have to figure out. I mean, it's not a team that is constructed to be a defensive team. That's for sure. They're not the New York Islanders, right? Like we know the New York Islanders guys, like they're a tough team to play against. They don't give you a lot. That is not the Jets. I mean, the Jets are a fast, skilled team, that feeds off of plays off the rush. They feed off of power play goals. But if the Jets and the Leafs played, put it this way, boys, right now in the playoffs, if the Jets and Leafs played, you're taking the Leafs for sure.
Let's see if I can bring in Paul Maurice's post-game audio. I'm not sure if I can. Admittedly, like I said, we're just trying some new things out here. And if it doesn't work, just let me know in the comments if you can't hear anything and I'll cut it off. But nothing ventured, nothing gained, right, everybody? Yes, I can hear you all nodding and agreeing with me. So let's see if we can make something work here for the post-game purposes. Jet post-game at Leafs. Share. Let's
Here we go.
Play down over here. No, haven't started yet.
I know, but I can see that it's slowly but surely. There we go.
It's buffering. Going to get any more than buffering, unfortunately. Would be the reality of this.
No, I don't think it's working. We'll have to do it through a different medium.
No, yeah, we'll try it again a different way. Like I said, nothing ventured, nothing gained. We're trying out things as we.
This is all new to us.
As we try to bring you some extra coverage.
Well, and I think what's clear, and I mean, we can see that people are in the comments and stuff like that. I think what we realize is that there's a void, and people want to be able to have a voice, and that's why I think again, it's kind of why our radio show is different, obviously, on Saturdays than this new venture, our new debuting a post game show. But I think what it shows is that there's a healthy appetite for fans to be able to come online, form that community, share comments in the with each other, share them with us while we dialogue. So we love it. We're enjoying this, and we're loving seeing all the people here in the chat and seeing all the comments.
Well, somebody's actually making a good point. Doug on YouTube through our YouTube feed is making a good point. And maybe we should kill our video, and that might help us get Paul Maurice up on the screen.
Well, so yeah, I mean, we talked about sending us into the back room, if you will,
into the abyss,
and then well, that too. As he looks like he just came from the abyss.
I'm pretty sure Ezzy might be the abyss. Never mind came from it. I mean, given that appearance, it's that beard hasn't changed at all, unfortunately, for better or worse for the last little while. So let's try this one more time, and if it doesn't work, we'll give some final thoughts and we'll say goodnight for now. But let's try this one last time and see if we can get this to work. Appreciate everybody's patience as we try new things here this afternoon or this evening, as the case may be. Don't mind me. Just gonna hum along a little bit here. Post game, share that. Let's remove us from the screen. Remove, and
kind of wild momentum swings. What was your biggest takeaway from tonight?
A really, really good goalie. And we were able to come back after giving up 2 and tie a game.
Go next to Carter Brooks from Game On. Go ahead, Carter.
Hi, Coach. Just a moment ago, Blake Wheeler mentioned that there was some miscommunication in the offensive zone. You said if there's a play goes the other direction, it's game over. Jets win. Puck goes the other way. Win. What do you say to your team after something like that?
Nothing. I mean, we put those guys out there for a reason. I'd take that chance again. You get 3-on-2 net front with those 3 guys, and it's worked for us. We've been just a really strong overtime team, and at the end of the day, with the chances for and against the way they were, probably a just result. Got our chance.
Go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go.
Well, your team coming in wanted to reduce the prime red zone chances. How far short did you fall of that?
I liked our first. I thought we were right on there, and then it didn't. We weren't able to contain them after that. We struggled with it.
Go next to Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Paul, just with overtime, I guess this is the fourth one where you've used the three forwards. How do you decide which line maybe starts? Because it hasn't always been the same line.
No, it's all face-offs. I got Scheifetz. Winning that draw is important, and it has been important in our wins. So Scheif, I think I had him 11-7 going into the overtime, and Pierre-Luc was, I think, at 4-8. I think so. That's just it's clean like that.
We'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Paul, you talk a lot about the way your team builds offense. On a night like this where, Connor's the story, the goals that Nick does get are really good chances. Is there something about when you get into these games that it's almost like a rope-a-dope style or something like that you're bouncing back to score those goals, and there's a reason for it?
No, I thought they were really aggressive with their gap, and it was a hard gap, and it was going to be it would be a knockdown play like the first goal where you were able to catch them maybe pressing up, and the second goal was basically they rimmed the puck to the weak side, and they're pressing so heavy into the corner that the other side of the ice was wide open. So we didn't do enough of it. They give them credit. They were right on it, right on the puck tonight, and that's how their 3-2 goal happened. They came on. They were on the puck tonight and wouldn't come off it, and we had a difficult time moving it. No, that's not a statement of our back end. It's the group. So they were good. We're going to break some chains loose, but on breakaways, and they had us tonight.
Go next to Scott Billick from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Paul. Do you say anything after a game like that to Connor Hellebuyck with all the saves he made? And then similarly, Nikolai Ehlers comes up and talks to us, and he's pretty upset about being on the ice for 3 goals against, even though he scores 2 goals. It's kind of, just a weird emotional state for maybe two of your players. Do you talk to them at all there, or is that just kind of let them deal with that?
Yeah, we'll get to everybody for the most part. Connor talks to Wade Fleury after every game, probably 10 minutes after the game, gets undressed, and he's got a great awareness of his game, so he knows how good he was. He'll probably tell you he wants the 4th one, and that's just the way he's wired. Nikolai, that's growth, right? Like that's major growth for a young player. He scores 2 on the ice for a bunch, and that's what he takes home with him, right? He didn't like the way that went. That's a good thing. He's not in a bad mental state. He's putting pucks in the net, but at the same time, he knows that he was on the ice when they were, so that doesn't make him very happy.
Go next to Paul Friesen from the Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Just following up on Nick a bit, was he as bad defensively as he told us he was?
No, I don't think he was. I don't think he was, but we're not gonna individualize blame on those goals. So he's on the ice, and that's the way he takes that, right? He takes it as a line. So he's kind of, Nikolai really this year I think we saw it in the bubble where he took a step forward for us. But you look at his play tonight in terms of his compete and his battle and being hard on pucks, and obviously the skill that comes out on those 2 goals that he scored. But this guy's playing some great hockey for us, and that's some maturity there. Like he's wants the win more than the stats, right? That's a great thing.
Thanks very much, Coach.
Okay, guys.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back.
There he goes. That's Jets head coach Paul Maurice. It worked.
Who's Ez?
Well, if we lost Ez, then it really worked.
What happened to Ezzy?
I don't know. He'll be back. I'm sure he got distracted. Maybe a fluffy dog walked by or something.
Dog had a fluffy tail?
Yeah, or it might be time for his 9:20 pizza or something. He'll be back, I'm sure, momentarily. But anyways, that worked. Okay, good to know. So we're learning something. We'll even be better for Saturday's post-game show after the Jets and the Leafs play again, the finale of this 3-game set. The key, David Minuk, is to close our video feed, and then we can seamlessly fit things back in.
Yep. Yeah. No, it was. It's like I said. It's been a fun experience. It's. We're
trying new things. That's basically how it works. We hear, like you said, we hear from the audience. They want this.
No, and look, we're seeing it in the comments on YouTube right now and Twitter and stuff like that. People are enjoying it. So I think it's definitely something that we're going to continue, because with the website, with what we've created on our new Saturday show, our new old Saturday show, I think it's a place for folks who are interested in the Jets, interested in the Moose. By the way, the Moose lost today in regulation.
I was going to say it was a double header kind of night where I was covering the Jets game and you were covering the Moose game.
Yeah.
What happened in the Moose game that you can update our audience about?
The Moose lost 2-1 to Stockton in regulation. They got Christian Vesalainen back, so he played his first game. He's been day-to-day since the Jets reassigned him and David Gustafson. Pascal Vincent. I mean, obviously, I was watching the Jets game too because we were having a post-game show. I have to pay attention, but I kind of had a split screen thing going. So, but Coach Vincent reunited David Gustafson, Christian Reichel, and Christian Vesalainen on a line in the third period. That's a good line last year for the Manitoba Moose. Final 10 games of before the pause, which is weird. It was a year ago today that happened. So those guys were really good together last year. He put them together this year, and so. Got Marco Dano back, Christian Reichel's back because he was injured, and so the Moose have some talent, and these defensemen are interesting to watch. But we'll talk about the Moose on Saturday. This is the Jets post game show.
That's right. So exactly. Saturday, of course, we'll be on 9 a.m. here live on YouTube and all of our social media platforms. Dave and I will be there. I'm not sure if Ezzy is like Ozzie Smith in the Simpsons episode where he gets lost in the ether and down a mystery hole. We're not sure what happened to Ezzy, but hopefully we'll find him in time for Saturday. We've got a couple more minutes to go. We'll wrap it up around 9:30 tonight. And then, like I said, post game, as soon as the final buzzer goes, we're going to do our post game show. And now that we know how to bring in the post game audio, we'll also be able to do that. So, tune in on Saturday as well, 9 a.m. for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. And then after the end of the game on Saturday night, presumably somewhere around the 8:30, 8:45 mark, that'll be Saturday night. You can join us for our post-game show as well. Dave, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the Jets...
Peter wouldn't be happy with you using that, but go on.
I know, that's okay. Peter's probably not very happy with me.
I don't know that they're listening to this anyway, so I think we're okay.
You think that this isn't the PETA post-game show? We should be okay in that front?
No.
But, if you're the Winnipeg Jets, I think what you have to take from tonight's game is twofold. One, you're happy that you get the point. You're very happy you get the point.
For sure.
And secondly, you're not very happy with how you played, especially with how you hung out to dry your goaltender more often than not. Mm-hmm. So I want to see on Saturday if there's almost a better commitment to the team defense. Not, this Jets team is such a quick strike offense.
Yeah.
They don't cycle. I mean, we saw it on the Leafs. I think it was their first goal, where it was cycle. Yeah. Puck goes back to, I believe it was to Morgan Riley at the point. He takes the point shot, and it ends up on Mitch Marner's stick for the tap-in goal. The Jets aren't a cycle team anymore. They are an off-the-rush team. So you wonder if there's a way to balance sort of that off-the-rush aspect of their game with improved defensive play. Because there were a number of times today I noticed guys, leaving the zone, trying to sprint the zone, trying to break the zone, and the Leafs are so good at knocking pucks out of the air. And when you think you're going to have a clean zone exit, it just doesn't come to fruition because of the Leafs' skill and their, and the excellent sticks that they use, throughout the course of the game. So you wonder if the Jets are going to go back and maybe have maybe more attention to detail than we saw during tonight's contest.
Well, I think they don't have a choice. I think to your point, Drew, I mean, look, you're how you started this, saying that you're happy that you've got 3 out of a possible 4 points right now, going into Toronto, where a lot of people are like the Jets are going to get no points, or they're going to be lucky to win 1. Well, you got 3 out of 4, so you're feeling already pretty good. To a point you made earlier in the show, also about you at worst you're coming out even, but the fact is that someone's doing some maritime math. That's always a good thing. Yeah. But ultimately, to a point you made earlier about sustainability, look, Connor Hellebuck is one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. I've said that already during the postgame show, and that's one of the tools in your toolbox. I mean, you get, as Paul Maurice, you get to use that. That's something that you guys get to have every single game, essentially, although they're going to need Laurent Brossoit, who, again, I've said has been very good this season. But you can't deny it. Like, that's the biggest difference between the Jets and the Oilers, right? If you look at the Jets and the Oilers, well, Connor Hellebuck is a lot better than what they've got over there. So the point is that you're going to have, that expectation that Connor Hellebuck is going to be this goaltender that's, a Vezina goaltender. But you need to ensure that you're not getting just demolished. 17-4 in high danger. The advanced stats were not flattering in any way, shape, or form.
And they rarely are.
No, but I mean, like
2 straight games for the Jets against the Leafs where it can't be that lopsided.
Yeah.
And we know.
And look, at the end of the day, I think, look, you've got, again, I mentioned this earlier, and I think it's an important point. You've got a Toronto team that had lost 3 games in a row in regulation. Mm-hmm. So you're the number 1 team with a ton of distance between you and second, and you've got Montreal fall out of it. You got the Jets climbing, and you had Edmonton climbing. But you had distance, and then all of a sudden you lose 2 to Vancouver. You lose the first game of this 3-game series to Winnipeg. So, you have a highly motivated Toronto team. Now, I think they're a highly talented Toronto team as well. And I think I think this is a team that you have to likely go through to, become the all Canadian champion to get through to the next, to the finals or the conference finals. But again, like this is just it's a very good, a very talented Toronto team that knew they needed to win. And again, ultimately, if I'm them, thinking to myself, it's 2-1 after 40 minutes. You've got Connor Hellebuck, who looks like he's not letting anything in. Mm-hmm. I mean, and what a play by Tavares to set up that goal by Nylander. I mean, like that's
talented players making talented plays.
Yeah. So I mean, like again, there was almost nothing he could have done on that play, and I just think he made so many saves that you're just sitting there going, how did he saw? I so many times in this game I thought that was a goal. That's a goal. That's a goal.
He made very good saves look ordinary.
Yeah.
Because he made so many exceptional saves throughout the course of the game, and that's a testament to his skill set, obviously. It's also a testament to just how many chances the Maple Leafs had in the course of this contest.
Yeah. And again, look, it's something you and I both and Ezzy were discussing. You just can't continue to do it. It's kind of like that idea of when Scheifele was playing 26 minutes earlier in the season. And I said, well, that's not sustainable. You can't have a guy playing that many minutes and expect him to be fresh especially in a condensed schedule. And so, the coaching staff has to figure some stuff out. Now, I'm not trying to poo-poo all of this because, again, you're walking out of there with 3 of 4 points in what was billed as one of the toughest series kind of stretches for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for them. But again, like I said, you have to figure out your 4th line because you need them to be playing more of a role. As he loves to reference the New York Islanders, how they've got a 4th line that you can roll out. That's something they have to do. You just have to have Matthew Perreault. People have been pointing it out. Matthew Perreault's been great. Matthew Perreault's been a very good player. But I mean, to me, if you put Matthew Perreault with Jansen Harkins, you have jump. You have a little more. Like you have, and again, I understand. Like at the end of the day, it's not our decision to make as to who will go into the lineup. You can see it, and you understand that Paul Maurice is a veteran coach. And I mean that from, as a double entendre there, because really he loves his veterans. And so, a guy like Nate Thompson's in there. And he said it before when I don't remember when he was asked the question, and he said something to the effect of, guys who can do more than one thing. guys who aren't just skilled. So, for example, a Christian Vesalainen, who have, and then he was essentially saying, well, a guy who can, why they don't go in for Nate Thompson is because he doesn't do penalty kill. Although it's interesting because Pascal Vincent often will use his skilled guys on the PK, the top prospects. But again, they're just trying to get experience in the AHL. But ultimately, I think that's one of the things this team has to figure out. I think they have to be able to roll four deep and carry the balance of play a little bit more, because the faceoffs I think ended up being 56-44 in favor of Toronto. And one of the themes that has been talked about obviously is possession, right? That idea of if you have the puck, you're not chasing it and you're controlling the play. So there's areas of work, but I mean, at the end of the day, look, the Jets are 16-8-2, and they're in a pretty good position right now to be a playoff team. So you've got a lot of season left, even though we're approaching that midpoint. There's still a lot of season left to figure these things out.
Look, to your point, they banked the points. They get, just because it wasn't pretty, just because it wasn't pretty on Tuesday, they still get 3 out of possible 4 points so far. Another opportunity on Saturday night to get, to make it 5 out of 6. And I certainly think most people would have been fine if you'd said the Jets are going to get half the points in this series against the Maple Leafs. You may not necessarily have loved how it's come about, but on the scoreboard, it says 3 out of a possible 4 points so far, and that's all that matters. On that note, Dave, I think we both have to call a search party and figure out what happened to Ezzy, because I don't know where he is, but that's okay. We'll leave it there for tonight. We'll see everybody back 9 a.m. on Saturday morning live.
7 a.m. tomorrow morning when the morning papers go live.
Of course, 7 a.m. with the Illegal Curve morning papers, and we'll have all your Jets coverage all throughout the day tomorrow, of course, on illegalcurve.com. And then Saturday morning, 9 a.m., the Illegal Curve Hockey Show will get you set up for the Jets and the Leafs, the third of 3 games in this series. We'll talk all about the Winnipeg Jets as we're basically at the halfway mark of the season. We'll look back at the players and really do an evaluation of who is playing, who is meeting our expectations, who is exceeding our expectations, and who is underperforming. So really in-depth analysis coming up on Saturday morning with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. And then, of course, post-game after Saturday night's contest, that'll be also live here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll be live on our YouTube feed as well as all of our social medias. Want to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Bernstein's Deli, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Zappia Group Realty, and Linden Market Dental Center, as well as our newest sponsor, our good friends from Boston Pizza. Want to thank all of them for joining us on the program and for making this a reality. For Ezra Ginsburg, who we don't know where he is, for Dave Minuk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Do not
ring the bell. Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
Exactly. Ring the bell, to Dave's point. Do not miss a moment of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We are live here on YouTube and all of our social media platforms.
Thanks, everyone.
Keeping Winnipeg laughing for over 30 years. Rumors, Canada's longest-running comedy club, bringing you the biggest laughs from the best comedians on the planet. Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the greats, and all the up-and-comers too. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends, or book your office or birthday party. Even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
Hey, Drew.
Ezzy, whoa, what a smile!
Yeah, I got my crowns done at Linden Market Dental Center, and they whiten my teeth.
I see.
They're so bright that every time I smile, they go...
We have hockey tonight. Do you have a mouth guard to protect those pearly whites?
I sure do.
Whoa, they even ting through the mouth guard.
Linden Market Dental Center covers all your dental needs, from restorative to cosmetic dentistry, and will fit you with a sports guard for that active lifestyle. 877 Waverly. See lindenmarketdental.com.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
While you can't always count on your team winning, nor your favorite player scoring, one thing you can always count on is Bernstein's Deli. They've expanded their services because the team at Bernstein's Deli wants to accommodate your needs and keep you safe. Open Tuesday to Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. to serve you. Head to your phone, in-store or online to shop for groceries or order meals from the restaurant, like the legendary Illegal Curve sandwich. Just go to bernsteinsdeli.com.